In today's episode of Geeks on Trial, we're talking about Microsoft's recently leaked documents and the secrets that they've been keeping from us. Then, is it okay for your significant other to watch a TV show without you? Stay tuned for our verdicts. What you are listening to is real. The parties involved are not cool. They are actual geeks with a case pending in the court of public opinion. The party's case has been dismissed, and the dispute will be settled here on our podcast. There will be no lawyers. There will be no witness testimony. The judge's decisions are final.
Hello, I'm Judge Ivan.
I'm Judge Jonathan, and this is Geeks on Trial. Today's case, not on my binge watch.
Welcome to Geeks on Trial. This is the podcast where we settle petty disputes between actual geeks over movies, video games, board games, and more. If you'd like to submit your own geeky case for a future episode, you can email us at geeksontrial@gmail.com. You can also support the show over at patreon.com/geeksontrial for just a few bucks a month, and you'll gain early access to both our audio and our video episodes before they're released to the general public.
It's great to do, man. It makes you feel good. It'll put a smile on your face to help us out on that Patreon.
It's true, and it'll give us some money too, and we'll be happy.
But
so we can be smiling.
But look how generous we are. We're giving you this show for free today.
Oh no, it's an IOU. I'm sending them a bill.
Well, yeah, right. Today it's free. 3 or 4 months down the line, you will be receiving a bill for us, and it is not small.
No,
it's.
And we're going to be using COD, cash on delivery.
Oh,
as they used to do back in the day?
I see. I was thinking they were going to be paying in Call of Duty discs. I guess I've just sort of got Call of Duty on the brain because
Why? Why do you have Call of Duty on the brain?
Well, you see, before we get to today's case, I wanted to talk about a little something that cropped up the other day. Good job getting your gavel. You're going to need that
Thank
for
you.
later. And that is...
I thought I was trying to do it secretly.
No,
Sorry.
I've got my eye on you, you little bitch. Microsoft. You know them?
I usually am.
There you go. Now we're in it, folks. Microsoft is, if you don't know, going through this big legal battle right now that's been ongoing for a while with the FTC concerning their purchase of Bethesda and like whether or not they're a monopoly and all this stuff. And the story now is ancillary to that, but as a result of that, the FTC basically had a bunch of legal documents published, and somehow someone or other screwed up and didn't redact some things and basically leaked a ton of internal Microsoft documents, including plans for a new revision of their current Xbox console, plans for the next Xbox console, which is supposed to come out in 2025, including a brand new controller and the details of like what that's going to look like and what some of those new features will be. There were also some leaked internal emails from Microsoft's Phil Spencer about Microsoft's desire to purchase Nintendo, as well as seemingly their desire to purchase Valve, and whether or not those things are possible, and talking about it behind closed doors. So a lot of things Microsoft didn't want out there. Phil Spencer actually commented on this on Twitter, saying that it's a shame this got leaked and that some things maybe have changed. Nothing. They didn't make a real formal statement that I know of, so who knows what any of this is or what any of this means. But most of it seems, at least these system specs about the new consoles and stuff, seems pretty concrete.
Well, it just seems like all this seems like this was just some like BS going back and forth over the years of, we have a few $1 billion. Shouldn't we just buy Nintendo and maybe Sony at that point and let's just buy everyone and just be the only console on the market? Like, it just seems like some of this is like they just found someone's AIM chat from like 10 years ago.
Well, it's funny because I don't remember exactly when this happened, but it was 10 years ago, 15, maybe it was during the Wii or Wii U era. There was supposedly a meeting between Microsoft and Nintendo of Japan. And someone will have to fact check the details on this, but this did happen.
I won't.
Okay, good. But Microsoft basically, from the story that was told, and I forget where this came out, made a proposal to buy Nintendo and basically got laughed out of the room.
Right.
And now apparently years later, this is still an internal thing. And yeah, my reading of it to some extent is kind of what you just said, that I think part of this is like, especially when you're a company as big as Microsoft, I feel like part of your job is to just say, hey, maybe we can buy this company or that company.
Right.
And I don't know how much of this is really legitimately them saying, we absolutely want to buy Nintendo versus just kind of, I have to, every day I got to come up with an idea. So I better pitch this to somebody.
Right. Well, it also seems like, I feel like if anybody were to go to Nintendo and be like, we want to buy you, Nintendo would be like, get out of here. Like, I think you and I, in one of our private texts, we're like, I said to you, I'm like, Nintendo doesn't care about money.
I said that in confidence. That's a private.
Oh, I didn't realize. You didn't redact. What,
Sorry.
are you working for Microsoft now?
Yeah, and Nintendo's also very good at making their own money.
Well, they're very good at making their own money, but then the years where they didn't, they just went, okay, fine, we'll do something else. Like, they're not in the market of selling their company. They're in the market of buying companies. Like, that's a big portion of what Nintendo does. Because, like, if you look at a lot of their really famous IPs, they're technically were purchased. Like, wasn't Pokemon purchased? Like, it was with them.
They don't, I mean, they always had it. They don't technically own Pokemon fully. The Pokemon company is its own entity. But
isn't that Game Freak?
Game Freak also is the developer. But yeah, Pokemon company is like the one who like owns it. But Nintendo has like enough stake in it. Like they're big shareholders that it's kind of like half
and
theirs.
Like, yeah. Nintendo is such an old company beyond video games at this point. It's like, you can't buy Nintendo. It's like going to like buy the Smithsonian Museum. It's like, you can't just buy a industry staple.
Yeah, they're a very traditional Japanese company, and they're very, I guess, stubborn is one word that you could use. And I think it would take them truly being bankrupt to ever.
Right.
And I think they're too smart now and too good at storing up cash reserves that it will probably never happen. Like the video games industry will probably not exist before Nintendo is owned by someone else.
Right. At that point, they'll go back to making playing cards. Like they're like, we have a backlog. We're good. But this whole thing with Microsoft has always been kind of like borderline monopoly since their start because, Microsoft is, they make gaming consoles now, but they're a computer developer. And back in the day, it was them versus like Apple. And like they were trying to like buy Apple and buy, other things. And they were the only word processor company. So like they've been borderline monopoly and borderline some shady practices for years. But, most of their back end work, it's kind of like Nintendo. They made computers. They made them right. So it's like, for that kind of stuff, it makes sense. But where do you put, I'm interested about this. Where do you rank Xbox as gaming? Because for me, it's bottom tier.
I've never owned an Xbox console. I don't really feel a desire to own one. I will say Game Pass is a very compelling business model. And I think I think if you have an Xbox mostly because of Game Pass, the access to that library is really nice.
Which makes sense to why they would want to buy Steam.
Yeah. Which by the way, I think that's also equally as ridiculous as maybe. I mean, if Valve didn't have Steam, I could almost see Microsoft owning Valve just for their gaming software. But Steam is like the biggest platform on the planet. I just can't imagine them wanting to make that partnership. But anyway, I think the Xbox is actually a great value proposition. But I also think I kind of feel like if you have a gaming PC, you don't really need an Xbox.
Right. Well, that's the thing, too, because you can download the Xbox Pass, whatever that's called, for your PC.
Yeah, there are some games, I think, that you can only get through the Xbox Game Pass.
But for me, it's like, I've always been a Nintendo fanboy. So it's like Nintendo, Sony, Sega, Xbox for me. And Sega doesn't even exist anymore.
That's true.
They don't make consoles.
Well, maybe Microsoft could buy them.
There you go.
But yeah, it's a crazy thing, and it's crazy to hear the concrete plans about their next hardware iteration too, which we normally would not hear for at least another year. And the next revision of their console too is very interesting. It looks like a router. It's like a cylinder. It actually looks kind of cool.
It does. It's kind of like, I think Apple made a computer like that too. Like their iMac or whatever was they call it the garbage can at one point. It was a round tube. So that's like the only cool stuff to come out about this is like Okay, fine. They want to buy a Nintendo. Sure, who doesn't? If I had the money, I'd buy a Nintendo. That'd be fun. But like, like the console stuff is really the only meat and potatoes out of this entire thing because this is actually giving us insight into what's next with Microsoft. And that's also a thing that can I think they're publicly traded. I'm sure they are. That can actually screw with their stock prices because now they know oh, this is the secret. Now Sony can be okay, we could one up them or whoever,
Yeah, it could definitely hurt them a lot. I mean, it's hard to say how many normal people will really pay attention to this or be aware of it versus a cool official unveiling. And I wonder if they will try to get it now as a reaction, do their kind of official marketing push earlier or I don't know. It sucks for them, honestly. It's kind of similar to when I think it was about a year ago or maybe a little longer when a bunch of Rockstar's stuff for the next Grand Theft Auto got leaked. And it's
that's about a year at this point because they've officially kind of have been talking about the new game. But yeah, that was about a year ago, I think, that they mentioned that got leaked.
Yeah, it's hard. And Nintendo is usually very good at keeping those things for themselves from leaking. But even they, for the last Nintendo Direct, had a few announcements got leaked early on. So it's just kind of a thing now in the industry. But what's usually it's an insider or some press person somehow secretly leaking it. But in this case, it's the FTC, which is what makes it so funny and sad.
Which our great government was just amazing with this. Now, it is interesting because so they leaked the new Xbox design. This can also make them go back to the drawing board and push it back a year and be okay, they saw what we're going to do. Let's make it better.
But it might be too late. I don't know. They might. The new Xbox, the revision, I think they said was supposed to be coming out next year, and then 2025 was for the. I don't know. It depends on how they feel about it.
I'm going to put my conspiracy theorist hat on, which is just tinfoil. Let me ask you this. Do you think companies like this sometimes leak their stuff on purpose for a little bit of extra press when they're slow?
Well, they sure didn't this time.
Because this is getting them in the news and people are talking about this stuff a little bit more.
I don't think they want to be at least in the news for this.
Okay.
I don't think they want to be in the news to be linked to their lawsuit against the FTC. Anything that leads back to that. I honestly think very rarely do companies really want to leak things early. It might happen once in a while, but usually the PR teams they have a plan. They know when they want to have stuff presented. But I don't know. It's case by case basis. Certainly not. I don't think in this case it makes no sense.
Especially the Nintendo stuff doesn't really it's fine. It's we said they talked about buying it. Okay, who hasn't? It's that's not a big of a deal. It's kind of it kind of embarrasses them a little bit.
Oh yeah, I think so for sure. Because everyone's that's the part everyone's laughing about. If it was just the new console, it'd be oh, that's kind of interesting or exciting or whatever. But that's the part that's, what are you guys, idiots? That's the part that really, eventually the console would have been public. The other stuff was never supposed to be public. So,
do you think Nintendo got word of that, printed it out, and at a board meeting, they send them a fruit basket? They're oh, it's cute. Here's a fruit basket.
They probably will. Yeah, it'll have a little DK banana.
It's true. It's funny.
They'll eat it,
or just peels, just banana peels.
Oh yeah, because King K. Rool took them.
Yep.
All right. But anyway, you can go online and you can read all these leaked documents for yourself, and we'll wait and see if they make any changes or if it affects their future plans. I don't know.
Just to let the listeners know and viewers know and however else if we ever leak anything, we'll make an announcement that when we're going to leak something. We'll tell you when we leak things.
Correct. That's why I wear an adult diaper most of the time.
Oh, you leaky?
That's a funny, mature joke to make, right?
Yeah, for a certain crowd that is not our demographic, but sure, yes,
they are now. The diaper fetishists. Let's get into today's case, which is tangentially related to diaper fetishists. Today's case comes to us from the internet. You can find a link in our episode description. Our defendant today is Joyce. Joyce and her boyfriend Jim are big TV watchers, and Joyce has been pushing Jim to watch a show with her for months now. She's seen the first season of it, and she wants to catch up to its current episodes together as a couple. However, that's tough to do with their busy work schedules, as well as Jim's kids currently staying with them. He's got to spend time with family. And one night, when Joyce is resting in her room, she emerges to discover that Jim has watched 2 seasons of said show with his kids and without her. Joyce is upset by this because it had been her hope to share the show with Jim together, but Jim says they can watch it again and it's just a show and she should really just relax. As dual judges here on Geeks on Trial, it's now our job to determine whether Joyce made the wrong choice or if we should be mad at him, Jim.
I didn't give you enough time for this week, I guess.
No, that's my best. I spent 45 minutes on that one.
That's your best.
So, TV shows, the watching thereof, significant others. By the way, it's not...
Sorry. So, TV shows.
That's right. I just like to sum up the major bullet points of the case in a dramatic voice before we get into it.
Now, wait a minute. Should we still even call them TV shows? Because people watch them on their phones now. That's not a TV.
You're right. It's a phone show.
Phone show.
It's a phone show. It's a gong
it's a screen show. Screen show.
I watch stuff on my gong all the time.
That's weird.
You don't have a gong at home?
I have a gong at home, but I don't watch media on it.
Wong. I hit it with my gavel. Wong.
Oh, that's funny. I mean, I do actually have a gong right here.
He's taking down a gong. Can we hit that with the gavel, please, so they can hear it? I can't hear it, but I bet it made a sound. Yeah, that's.
But you can't watch shows on this. It's a gong. There's no screen.
Well, no, it's reflective. Yeah. You set it in front of the monitor. It's the only way to watch things, folks. Anyway, I was saying they don't mention specifically what show this is in question, but from my detective vision. Mm-hmm. Gleaning clues from the case file, Joyce mentions that this show currently has 4 seasons and that it has 80s nostalgia in it, so I have to assume the show in question is Stranger Things.
Oh.
So that's what I'm going to be assuming going forward, and that's, of course, a big popular show that people will want to be
That
watching.
only has 4 seasons?
Yeah. The 5th season will be the final season if they ever stop striking and make it.
Is it only, is it 1 season a year?
Oh,
I feel like that show has been on forever.
No, yeah, I think there's been 2 years maybe between seasons. It's not like because they're like big budget things and
right.
And I think after the first season they didn't quite. It wasn't like 100% ready to go for season 2. Like because originally they thought the first season was going to be just a one-off, like the show would be an anthology. So I think they shifted gears.
And it did really well and.
Yeah, but anyway, yeah, there's 4 seasons of it, and Jim's watched 2, and Joyce has only seen 1. And this is okay. TV watching with a partner. We've talked about this before. Yep. Mm-hmm. We've all done this. You have a partner.
I do.
You watch TV with him.
Where'd you go?
Here, boy. Come on.
Come on. Let's go. Watch TV. It's time for TV.
Come on.
How do you know the sound? Yeah, that's the sound. He's banging at the door right now.
I learned it in school.
Yes. So yes, we do watch TV quite a lot. We're media consumers. Usually older things, but we do throw in the newer
Stranger
show
things.
in there from time to time. And I guess some things we watch are strange, but we do watch shows from time to time. And I do have an opinion about this, which I'm sure I've said before, that it's. When we're watching shows together, there's certain couple shows that we watch together. And
we always watch Sean Connery or Jimmy Stewart, whichever one.
Yeah, sure.
One of the
both
two.
Dead, it doesn't matter. So we usually watch. There's a few shows that we watch together, and it's our couples time. He comes home from work, we watch a show, we eat dinner, do whatever. And I would be upset if he watched a show without me. He does have friends that he watches other shows with where I'm not a fan of said show. Like Sons of Anarchy, he watches with one of his friends. I don't like the show. So I'm like, okay, you can watch the show. I don't care how many seasons you watch of it. But it's shows that are new and we're both excited about. I'd be a little sore if he watched it without me.
Well, let's separate this into some categories because I think there's different things here. The first category maybe is currently airing shows. Now, do
Right.
you like a show that's a new episode every week, which I guess maybe that's I don't know. Maybe I think you're a person who maybe doesn't watch any shows that air week to week, so you can't relate to
No,
that.
because I'm weird. Well, because I also think I've been ruined by like Netflix, where it's like I like watching a show within 3 days. Like for example, there's a new Nailed It a Netflix show that came out maybe about a month ago, and that was the show we watched for 3 days, and then that was it. It's out of our brains, and we don't really
Into
watch
your ears.
week to week shows because it's like it's been ruined for good or for bad by binge watching, and I prefer to have a show ended for the season and watch a full go through. I'm a person who doesn't like to wait.
It's funny because we've talked about this before. It's different types of, like you say, it's you being impatient. But for me, I feel like it's also being impatient. But I'm like, well, I don't want to wait 8 weeks to watch one episode. If there's an episode today, I'm going to watch that one today.
But see, I don't like cliffhangers. Because like, I need to know what's happening next week. I want to watch this full. That might be because I'm more of a movie person, where I like watching like one chunk of media at one time.
Maybe.
You know what I'm saying? Like even like when it's like a part 1, part 2 movie, I'll wait till the part 2 comes out before I see part 1.
I also like, and we'll get off into a little bit of tangent here. Why not? I like.
We got time to fill.
Yeah, I like to discuss a show online too and see what people are saying. And I have found a lot of times you look at a show like The Mandalorian or Severance that aired last year. Reservation Dogs is on right now. There's still shows, even ones that go to streaming, like Disney Plus, for instance, is one that they do week to week episodes. So all the Marvel shows and the Mandalorian shows, they don't come out all at once. Amazon will sometimes do this too. They'll kind of like, I see them when they do The Boys or something. They'll do like the first 3 episodes are on the first week, and then they're week to week after that.
Right.
I don't know if that does anything for you. If that changes your mind.
I'll wait till they're all out.
But I find, and I feel like in a lot of cases, it's in the interest of the companies. It seems to me that there's better word of mouth, at least online, when they do week to week. Because
100%.
I'll look at a show like that comes out all at once, and it's gone in a flash. It's hard to discuss it online because people don't know. Well, which episode did you watch up to? Should I spoil this one? Or you watch it all at once and you're like, oh, which episode was that? Was that 2 or 3? I don't know, because it was all kind of one episode to me. Versus when it's week to week, that show now has sustained discussion. Every week there's a renewed bump. People talking about what do you think is going to happen next? What happened on this last episode?
And it's great for marketing because like instead of it gets lost in a Netflix shuffle when it comes out all in one day. But when it comes out 12 episodes, that's 3 months of advertising that the show will be in the air for 3 months and will be, on TV shows. Oh, did you see what happened last week on this? And, that's better on a marketing standpoint. And, it gets the word out there. But, yeah, I'm selfish.
Yeah, it's interesting to me because I don't, Netflix are the ones who started the binge thing.
Right.
And then they still, for most of their shows, do it, but some of the other streaming companies now aren't doing it, and I'm really curious about like the internal numbers and why Netflix still likes it and other streamers aren't always doing it, and why would we would think it would be the same for all of them, but maybe different audiences go for different things. I don't know.
And I guess it's because, like you said, this is what Netflix was kind of known for. So maybe it's like, okay, this is our company value.
Now they did.
So let's,
Yeah, they did experiment a little bit with Stranger Things, specifically in season 4, where I think they put like the first 5 or 6 episodes out all at once, and then it was like 2 or 3 weeks or a month later, like the 2 or 3 finale episodes dropped.
Right.
And I also think maybe one of the reasons they might have done that was just to give them more time to finish the VFX. Well,
that's the other thing too. Like for you to put a show out for a binge watch, you need to have your show finished.
Yeah.
Completely. And when you do a week by week show, you can edit it week by week.
Yes. And certainly, you don't see any dropped all at once seasons that are more than like 10 episodes or maybe 12.
Right.
Usually.
Oh yeah, they wouldn't, like back in the 90s when they had like
I was on a
24
very famous
episodes
TV show.
that was Netflix, right?
That was Netflix back in the 90s.
Well, like think about Fresh Prince of Bel-Air.
I always do.
Think about it. Okay.
God.
They probably edited those shows. Like they filmed it one week, it came out the next week. So like they were working actors week to week. So they were stuck on that set for as long as the show basically was out. And like, it's a lot of it's a different atmosphere now than it was back then, because like, you have to force out like 12 different shows a year to make any money. Thanks, unions. No.
No, the other guys. The corporations
The other guys
are the problem.
The corporations.
Yeah,
Thanks, Bob Iger.
I know one of them's bad. I can't remember which.
It's been going on for so long.
Yeah. Let's try to bring it back to our case, shall we? And the specifics of this case.
Well, would it bother you,
Mm-hmm.
like, if your significant other went off and like you're a very like TV shows are your taco flavored kisses.
My
TV
hand.
shows are very much gross. Are very much your like media is you. You are media. You are a media
I get
consumer.
what you're saying. I have no personality. I'm a piece of shit
Right.
who regurgitates
Yep.
television quotes.
Mm-hmm.
That's who I am.
Yeah, that's exactly. I mean, I've told you
That's
that many
who I
times.
am in
I've
my
written it down
soul.
for you.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I sign your birthday cards. You piece of shit.
Yep. You are Lisa
So-
Simpson, but you crossed out Lisa Simpson and wrote a piece of shit. Yeah.
So
See, just like that
Does
was a
it-
TV show. Go ahead.
would it bother you? Oh, you're right. That's sad. Would it bother
Proving your
you
point.
if like your significant other would watch TV shows without you? Like you guys started Stranger Things. You woke up the next morning and they were just, they watched the show all the way through.
Yeah, so this is so like I said, there's a little bit of a different category from this case, but to me, if it's a show you've started watching together and then they, without consulting you, watch one or more episodes without you, that's a violation. That's a betrayal.
That's a deal breaker, ladies.
You have
the 30 Rock reference.
Thank you for that. And if you watch 30 Rock without me when we're watching that together, that is I will take great offense at that. Now, because it's just it's definitely that's rude. That's unless you have. It's kind of like an open relationship or something. You have to have a specific discussion about boundaries and say it's okay for you to watch this with someone else without me. And and you no kissing while you watch it, but everything else is okay.
Everything else is fine. Netflix and chill, just no Netflix and kiss.
Exactly. But if it's a show, it's more of a gray area if it's a show that you haven't started yet. And again, that comes down to I think the specifics of how it has been approached in the past. And in this case, Joyce says she's been talking about the show and saying we should watch it together. But maybe to Jim, he hasn't felt like she's officially said, oh, this is a show we're going to watch this together like 100%. Maybe it seemed like more in passing. That's a thing that's kind of hard to gauge, not having heard the dialogue for ourselves. But it sounds like from Joyce's perspective, if we're taking this file at face value, as we often have to, she's kind of said, like, this is a show we should watch together.
Well, I'm assuming, like, if you're a semi-healthy couple and you're talking about, like, oh, hey, that show looks cool, we should watch that. That's kind of like keyword for we should watch this show together.
Yeah, it's not even really a keyword. You kind of just said the same thing twice.
Right. Or like even like just showing interest in a show. Like, oh, that looks okay. Or that looks cool. That just okay. But don't start that without your partner.
Yeah, and I think that's a part of this is you got to have that conversation. And it also depends on, because some couples probably aren't big TV watchers. Some couples don't care, and maybe there's a disconnect in this relationship where Joyce is more into it than Jim is. But I think at some point you should have that discussion of like, we need to decide, because there's only so many hours in a day, and there's also only so many hours you can watch shows together. And I think there comes a point where if you limit your TV intake to we only watch things together, then you'll never be able to watch all the shows you want to watch.
Right.
Because there's so much content these days, folks.
Well, that's a thing, like bringing it back to my relationship. Like there are shows that I know, my partner will not like. Like there'll be like weird documentaries about like the behind the scenes of filmmaking, or even like certain movies that I know, like art films and stuff like that, that he won't like, where I'm like, okay, that's fine. If I tell him I watched that, he'd be like, all right. Like, it doesn't. Or like if he goes and watches, Battlestar Galactica or Battlestar from 1970s, I'm like, that's fine. I didn't need to see that. Like there's certain things where it's like we have a lot in common, but there's a few things where it's like, okay, I know he wouldn't be okay with that, but we've also been together for 10 years. So, we know each other well enough where I can be like, oh yeah, I saw this movie. He'd be like, all right, how was it? Good. All right. And that's the end of that.
Yeah. Is there ever a point where there's a show where it's like, I think you would watch, like, maybe you would like this show, especially if it's a new show. It's like, this seems like something maybe we'd both like, but I don't know. And again, we already are watching 4 other shows right now. So
that's
it's like,
literally our entire relationship.
yeah.
Like, for example, the movie Skinamarink. I'm like, okay, I gave him the warnings. I'm like, this isn't a movie. This is a horror experience. You're probably not going to like it. This isn't your cup of tea. He goes, okay, it's fine. Because still, like, it was a date night kind of thing. We went out to the movie theater. And, like,
the Skinamarink date night.
Date night. We was only 3 people in that theater. And, like, he ended up enjoying it.
What are you, Beetlejuicing over there? We don't need to get into that. Yeah. Because but I do think there's sometimes you have to make a call or a sacrifice, or sometimes, right. And a movie is a little different. With a TV show, I feel like sometimes there might happen a time when you watch 1 or 2 episodes and you go, oh, you should really, I want you to watch this show, therefore I'm going to stop and I'm going to wait.
Well, I think at that point, that's when you start doing those little white couple lies. And you say, you saw the 2 episodes. You just go back and say, oh yeah, I heard good things about the show. I think we should watch that. And I think that's okay.
But if you only watch 2 episodes, I don't think that's inexcusable. You can just say, oh, I want to rewatch them because it's good.
No, just lie. Lying in a relationship. Healthy.
You're right. Always lie, no matter how small it is.
I do think 1 or 2, I put that on my dating profile. I do think watching a few episodes, like 2 would be the max. But when it's like, oh yeah, I watched a season of this, because then like you get that weird feeling of, oh, they're watching me watch this show for like, oh, you're not laughing here. You're not, why aren't you? I think this is another episode that we've talked about this, where it's like, you want to, it's an experience for people. Like, at least for me, it's an experience of, oh, this happened. I want to talk about this after it happened. I want to pick it apart. I want to, and if it's something they've already watched, it's kind of like, oh, like you can tell when somebody has watched something, because like, that phone comes out a little bit more, or like, they're, oh, I know I can go up and use the bathroom now. Nothing's going to happen. It's like,
Yeah, maybe it depends also on how long it's been since they've watched it, or
right.
or you might just say, why don't you just watch this season without me, and then once you're caught up, we'll get to the next part together or something like that.
Which I feel like that just seems more wrong.
That's more wrong to you?
Yeah, because like for me, like that time is like, couples time.
Well, you might be like, well, again, you live with your couple. So for some, and they do in this case as well. But I would think if you don't live together, then maybe it makes more sense to be like,
right.
You only have so many hours together. So it's like,
right.
We'd rather maybe the time apart is when we want to spend doing stuff I've already done or something like that. Now in this case,
now we didn't always live together. When I was in school, no.
Does he know?
No.
Okay.
I would leave at night. But like we would like watch TV shows either separately, or like we'd be on video chat watching TV shows at the same time. Like, okay, hit play in 3, 2, 1, and then, that's how we would classic do shows like that. Yeah.
Yeah, you can do that.
That's all I want to say.
I'm glad you said it. But so in this case, Jim is watching this show with his kids, and that is part of the case. Is for him, he says he wants to spend quality time with his family, and that I think they're leaving soon. And part of his defense is that, maybe, I don't know if a kid suggested it, and maybe, I don't know if that makes a difference if a kid wanted to watch it versus him. And it's like, oh, it's something to do with my kids that we can all relate to. I don't know. Does that do anything for you? Does that change any of the facts?
Well, But my thing would be like, he was mentioning that he wants to do this with his family. Is his wife, girlfriend not part of the family?
Mm-hmm. Not officially.
That's like that's the weird thing where it's like, okay, fine, you watch this with your kids, but why didn't we all watch this together? Like that's where it starts getting into a weird cross boundaries thing. Like you wanted to watch it and spend time with them. Why not all of us?
It is strange. So Joyce talks about how she works long hours and she gets exhausted and she's maybe not as, doesn't always want to hang out with folks, which I can certainly relate to. It is a bit surprising that they managed to watch through 2 seasons of this show without her being aware of it at all.
Well, and yeah, like are the 3 of them like just off from life? Like, did they just watch 3 episodes or 3 seasons or 2 seasons in like a day? Like,
well, so Stranger Things, I want to say the first 2 seasons might only be 6 episodes. Maybe the second one is more, maybe like 8. But that's still like you're talking.
That's 14 hours.
Yeah, like 12 to 15 hours or something of TV.
Right.
And I just feel like I don't know how this happened. How is it possible for Joyce to have been unconscious during all of this? That she missed
my
this?
other thought was like, does she work nights and they were watching this while she wasn't home?
That could be. It could be, yeah.
Is it like, do they live in a bunker and she's like locked away in a safe somewhere? Like, you would probably get up at some point and go out of the bedroom, because a little bit of this to me is like, okay, well, why wasn't Joyce like, fine, you're tired, but like, were you just being a hermit in another room somewhere? Like, you could have like walked out and been like, oh, what are you guys doing? And,
Right.
Been a normal human being and like open and like,
Well,
stuff like that.
I mean, I wouldn't, but I understand the sentiment.
Well, you're a freak.
But it's what's, even if, let's assume she's away, she works at night and that's when they watch it or whatever. Right. There's no way. I mean, I would be shocked if they watched this all in one sitting. Like, I have to imagine this took place over the course of at least 2, maybe 3 days.
Right. Oh, you're giving, I was even thinking like a week.
Well, that's what you could definitely binge a season in 2 days of
oh, no, you could, but I'm thinking
really
of like,
went through it.
Of the ages, like, these are like college kids and a 30-year-old, like,
right.
Well,
I'm saying, even in like the extreme, the kids are off from school. Maybe it's a weekend. Maybe it's a long weekend and Joyce works and the husband doesn't work during the weekend. Even in this extreme scenario,
yeah, you can do it in 2 days.
Wouldn't at some point in those 2 or 3 days, they don't have a conversation and go, "Hey, what'd you do today?" And he says, "Oh, we started watching Stranger Things." Like that.
Right. Or like you didn't see like the Netflix menu up on the screen. Like if they're watching this, there's no breaks. They're like, pause the show, go to the bathroom, get something to eat. We're coming back. Yeah. Like, it's you would have to either, do they live together?
It sounds like they do. Yeah, I believe they do.
Now, are we sure?
I'm pretty sure. That's what she says. The kids don't always live there. But
right. So it makes sense to me that he wants to, his kids are home from college or whatever. So it's like he wants to get these episodes in quickly while they're, spend some father time, whatever. But like, you're right though. Where was she?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't understand it. But apparently that's how it happened.
Like, was there like no like a dinner conversation? Was there no like, yeah, what did you do today?
It's weird.
Nothing. Right.
So it's either like they watched it and they just straight up watched it through like and didn't sleep for a day.
Right. Which another point,
Maybe.
That would be weird too, because you would think she would get Joyce would come out and be
jizz?
like, she might have to come out and jizz. You never know.
Oh, come on.
But if she came out to jizz, she would see the thing on the TV.
Yeah, so that to me though, of all the scenarios, that seems the most likely explanation. Right. I think they must have just really binged it like in a day, because the alternative of him just not mentioning it is too weird. Right. It's too strange.
Well, him not mentioning it and her not like wandering or hearing anything like
they don't. I don't think these people live in like a mansion where it's like I was in the guest house all weekend or something.
Unless she was in like a drug-induced coma.
Right.
That. Like, but, and going on to the other side of like, what Jim did wrong. I do think there is some wrong that he potentially did, especially if Joyce showed that this looks like a cool show. Like, fine, you want to spend time with your kids. And for most people, the kids come first. But like, if this is something, Joyce wants to watch the show, let's wait till she's around to watch it, or at least watch a few episodes with her, or just send her a text. Hey, babe, we're going to watch the show.
Yes. I mean, clearly there's a difference in these two people's minds of how important this is. And to Jim, it's just like, maybe he half remembers a conversation where she brought it up, but he's just like, it's just a show. Like, he doesn't place importance on this and she does.
Right.
I don't know. I think verdicts are in order.
Okay. I'm going to let you go first because I'm a little in my head about this.
All right. So I do like a lot of these kinds of cases, especially when it comes to couples. Usually the root of this is just a communication problem.
Error.
It's a word that sounds better.
As you had a communication issue just now.
Between my brain and my mouth.
Yep.
And like this could have been avoided. This is kind of a live and learn scenario where now Jim will understand Joyce feels strongly about this together time, and she didn't feel she was getting it. And for him, I think on his end, this just wasn't. It just wasn't. He didn't think this would be a big deal, but it was for her. So I think for Jim, it's an oversight. But we are judging Joyce on whether or not she has a right to be upset, and I think she does. I personally see where she is coming from. Maybe it can be argued, and I'm sure Jim would argue, that maybe her case wasn't made strongly enough in person that he didn't realize she wanted to watch this. But I have to go with my bias of my own, what I would feel in this scenario and based off the facts of what we know. And I feel like if I have to give Joyce a guilty or not guilty, I don't think she's guilty. To me, it's a thing that he could have at least given a courtesy, let you know, hey, I'm watching this, or do you mind? Even after like a couple episodes, say, mention that he's watching this show with his kids or something.
Acknowledge that there's another human in your home.
Yes, so I'm giving Joyce a pass on this one. I empathize with her, and I'm saying not guilty.
So Joyce gets a hall pass on this?
If she wants, with David Harbour.
Okay. Yeah, I do have to agree with you because, if these people are like, I also want to boil this down too, that like his kids are in the home. So maybe maybe she doesn't get along with the children. Maybe she doesn't, she doesn't feel like she's part of the group dynamics. Maybe she's like purposely like sequestering herself away from this group of people. So maybe that's why she's not, hearing, listening, communicating, which in that case, that's kind of shitty for the relationship as a whole, because usually when you date somebody with a family from a prior relationship, you're dating the entire group. You get the entire package. So like that's the only weird thing that I can think of in this situation. But like there is no communication on Jim's side, and I do think that she really did nothing wrong by being upset about this, because this is a show that she wants to watch. So what is it? Not guilty? I think she's not guilty
That's the one.
of this situation. And, she did nothing wrong. So not guilty.
All right, we got 2 not guilties, which means we need to deal out a sentence for Jim. He needs punishment for what he has done, which is his carelessness and his lack of oversight.
I feel like the real punishment, whatever. The real punishment would be he just has to rewatch all these episodes again and pay attention to them and have a conversation with his partner about them.
Yeah, I mean, that could be part of it, but I don't feel like that's enough compensation for Joyce.
Right.
That she's not really getting what she wants out of that. And I was going to say maybe she watches a show he cares about without him, but that also is a kind of a punishment for her potentially.
Right, because you want to watch a show with somebody and talk about it. I don't know. Maybe Jim has to just get rid of his children. Can't talk to him anymore.
Maybe that's it. No kids, no communication with the kids for let's say 3 months.
Because it seems like the kids just kind of screwed everything up by coming home,
as they often do.
They always do.
And I want to give him some kind of he has to be banished to the Upside Down and has to be tortured by Vyncke for a few weeks.
I've never seen the show.
You should watch it. It's you didn't even watch season 1, huh?
No.
Back when it was like the hotness.
Nope.
Oh.
I'll wait till it's done.
You'll wait for all 5 seasons to binge them all. Okay, all right. You better get.
Which is weird because it seems like it would be like cup of tea, but I just never jumped in.
I love it. A lot of people don't like the kind of the mid seasons, like seasons 2, 3, and 4. I think a lot of people a lot of people like season 4. I don't know. People go back and forth on it. I think it's pretty fun all the way through. But what do I know? I'm just some fucking idiot.
I know.
Anyway, that's our verdicts for this case. You can let us know what you think about it by sending us an email. Our address is email. It's not email.
And try that again.
Oh, thank you. Our email address is geeksontrial@gmail.com. It's also where you can go to send your own geeky cases that we will consider for review on this very show. We'll hear your case. We'll settle it just like we did today. You can also use the link in our description where you can fill out a form to do that. It's all very neat and orderly, so you can submit your case.
Can you guys tell he had coffee this week?
I didn't.
Oh,
I did.
What is, do you think somebody has email at email.com? Like that has to be an email address.
I think it's Edward Mail.
And there has to be from the 90s, like somebody had email.com. That was probably one of the first, anyway, if you want to help us get a new email address, maybe email at email.com. We'll buy our own domain. Head on over to our Patreon and give us some of your monies. We want your monies. Money us now. That's patreon.com/geeksontrial. And a few bucks a month, early access, all that jazz. And Jonathan, where can they find you outside of this show?
If you want to find me, you can go ahead and check out the other podcast I do, which is the Yerky Boys. It's an Animorphs read-through podcast, the old book series from the 90s. You can check it out on the podcast platforms that this very one is on, but not on YouTube.
Now let me ask you a question. What do you guys do on that show? Do you because I've never listened to it. I don't care.
No, I understand.
Do you read it's like an audiobook, or do you guys read it and then just chat about it?
We don't read the actual book but on the air, but we summarize it kind of in sections, and then we chat about each section one at a time. We walk through the plot. So even if you don't read the books, you could listen and get a sense of the story and what happens by listening. How about that?
Are they basically, there's chapter books, right? So do you guys go by chapter, or is it like a 1 through?
It depends, because sometimes like 4 or 5 chapters will kind of be the same thing. So we'll kind of lump them together.
It's a YA book from back in the day, so I guess that could be a problem. Well, you can find me over at ivanhan.com and over at youtube.com/thesnackguy, where I review snacks, and it's becoming pumpkin spice season. So I'm going to be reviewing all the pumpkin spice and all the basic bitch stuff there is on the markets.
I had the pumpkin frosty the other day, pumpkin spice frosty from Wendy's.
I'm going to do that. How was it?
I liked it.
Now, what do you like the weird frosty flavors?
I'm a frosty purist. I'll always try them, but I really am all about the chocolate frosty. To me, you can't top that.
Let me tell you, the other day we went to Cape May, and the Coors Brothers ice cream place had a pumpkin ice cream, and it tasted like pumpkin pie.
Yeah,
it was that I think is my favorite flavor. I like pumpkin spice, but I like pumpkin pie flavor that has the actual pumpkin. It was good.
I had pumpkin ice cream last night too.
It's a season,
It's the
summer
season.
just ended.
Yeah, that's right. Anyway, that's it, I guess. Thanks for watching, everybody.
Yeah,
it's been a ton of fun. If you're a viewer or listener of this show, however you get it, we love the shit out of you. My name is Jonathan Estes.
My name's Ivan Hahn, and this has been Geeks on Trial. Bye.